What's up everyone, Rover here bringing you another guide. This time we'll be looking at Kiris. A bit of history here. Before they released Hunt Stage 11, Kiris was basically a staple for golem stages, I think after they nerfed Ravi. Now she kinda lost her spot in golem hunts. Well, she's still viable up to stage 10, and she can still be used in some abyss runs, but she does become useless in stage 11 due to the new boss mechanics. What's unique about Kiris is that she utilizes poison to damage her enemies. She is a DOT character that doesn't rely on attack, but rather relies on effectiveness and speed. Pretty interesting, right? But without the damage from attack like a majority of the DPS, where does all her damage come from? Well, it's all in her poison debuff. Poison deals damage proportional to the target's max HP, around 5% per tick. This is why she doesn't need attack. Kiris' skills revolves around stacking poison. With the help of effectiveness and speed stats, this makes sure that she lands those debuffs and at a faster rate. If you think about it, 5 stacks of poison will deal a total of 25% of enemy max health. And with the right stats, she can maintain more poisons. Kiris' first skill, Venomous Arrow, has a 35% chance to inflict poison for 2 turns. You can actually increase the effect chance to 50% with skill enhance at +5. This is the only skill that can inflict poison. At 50% chance, it's okay, I suppose. You may think it's a bit low, but once you understand how Kiris works, this is not that bad. As you already know, poison deals damage proportional to 5% of the target's max HP. You can think of it as true damage since it's not affected by anything, defense or even damage reduction. Damage will be fixed based on HP. However, Barrier can soak up the damage. Kiris' second skill, Corrosive Valley, attacks all enemies and increases debuff duration effects by 1 turn. And I mean any debuff duration. So it affects not just poison, but also bleed, burn, stun, even attack, defense, and speed down. This is a really good skill since it benefits not only Kiris, but other units that can inflict debuffs in your team. It does have a pretty long cooldown at 5 turns, but with skill enhance at +3, you can decrease the cooldown by 1. Unfortunately, this effect can be resisted, but if you pay 20 soul burn, this skill will ignore effect resistance. Since this is an AoE skill, this affects all enemies as long as they have a debuff. A good example that benefits most from this skill is Baal and Senzan's S3 Requiem and Dizzy's S3 Emotional Gamma Ray. Also other units that can stack a lot of DOT in a short time such as Surin, Baiken, and Araminta are good candidates as well. This skill is good on Kiris the more she stacks on poison. Kiris' third skill, Preparation, is her core skill and what gives her momentum to stack poisons. This effect enhances her other skills. Her S1's poison chance will be increased to 100% and can stack up to 3 times, while her S2 extends the duration by 2 turns instead of 1. Before her third awakening, this skill increases her combat readiness by 50%. When she reaches her third awakening, this gives her an extra turn instead. Like Corrosive Valley, this has a 5-turn cooldown. What's good about this skill is that you can decrease this skill's cooldown through skill enhance at +2, as well as the extra turn provided from this skill. This makes a 3-turn cooldown skill. In my opinion, I think it's sitting in a nice spot, cooldown wise, considering this is the most important skill for Kiris. The worst that can happen is when you use this skill get an extra turn, and completely miss all your poison. At this point, she's going to be useless for the next 3 turns unless you have decent dual attack chance, high speed, or even better, both. For gear composition, speed set is always a must for Kiris, and you can pair this with either HP, Unity, Hit, or even Resist set. This entirely depends on the substats from your gears. Speed is very important because you want to attack the target frequently, not only to decrease her other skills, but to apply as much poison as possible in a short time. Unity provides an extra attack to apply poison. For hit set, you have more chances of applying poison. Most of Kiris' damage comes from poison, and if they don't hit, she is as good as useless. Resist and HP set is there to give her more survivability. The problem with DOT units is that it takes a few turns to build up their damage. Having these sets will make sure that she can reach to that stage where she starts to hurt, and I mean a lot. She doesn't need attack, crit, or any other sets that increase damage since poison is not affected by anything, even attack buff, so they are pretty useless on her. For substats, always have speed and a combination of effectiveness, HP, effect resistance, heck even defense if you want to. Just make sure they are all percentage, well except for speed of course. A good amount of effectiveness for Kiris is around 60 mark, but the more the better. I mean, you do need something to make up for her 50% effect chance on S1, cause in my opinion, it's still a bit too low. For speed, it will be good to have around 180 or more. There are only a few artifacts that works well with Kiris. This particular one is okay to use, but not the best. It's Swords of Judgment, a 5-star artifact that gives a 10% chance to attack again, up to 20% with a basic attack if the target survives a single attack. For one, Kiris' attack is single target, and it's nearly impossible to kill an enemy with her basic attack, since, you won't be building her with damage anyway. This gives you an extra attack to apply another stack of poison. If this triggers after using S1 with preparation, you can have up to 4 poison stacks. Follow this up with S2 on her next turn. All 4 of those poisons will get an extra duration. It's pretty good, but the chance of this happening is pretty low. For one, you have to activate the artifact, and the second, all poisons have to hit the target, racking up to 20% of the target's HP as true damage per turn. For 4-star artifact, Rosa Hargana is good to have, especially when using Unity set. Overall, this gives you a total of 19% extra dual attack chance. However, the attack buff on this artifact has very little value for Kiris since, well, she doesn't need it. This one is my favorite, a 3-star artifact that I always use for Kiris, Ranan's Memorandum. It increases speed by 1% up to 2% whenever Kiris attacks. This effect can stack up to 10 times, and the effect persists until the end of the run. This is good since the more speed she has, the more frequent she attacks, and more importantly, more chances to apply poison. Performing a dual attack can also trigger this effect, so it works well with Unity set. This artifact at max level gives around 20 to 22 extra speed at max stack. In my opinion, I think this is the best artifact for Kiris as of right now. When using Kiris, you should always start with preparation, enhancing her other skills, and use S1 to stack multiple poisons. On her next turn, use S2 to extend the poison duration, then use S1 and wait till S3 is available again. On the next cycle, this is where you have to decide whether you need to apply more poison or increase duration effects after using preparation again. This entirely depends on the situation and team composition. However, keep in mind that the maximum buff and debuff icon on a target is 10. So once you hit the limit, just extend the duration instead. You can also exploit this to stop the enemy from receiving any more buffs. That is, if you can manage to hit the limit every turn. However, it is a double-edged sword, meaning you cannot add any more debuffs on the enemy. Kiris works well with tanky compositions, as well as supports that buff speed. With this, you can put the game in auto mode and watch Kiris deliver a slow and painful death to her enemies. Chances are, battles will always be long. If you're someone who's doing something else while playing this game, well, she just might be the unit you're looking for. She also works very well in Golem Hunt up to stage 10, but becomes useless in stage 11. This is due to the boss having a passive skill that makes it very difficult for non-fire units to do anything, as well as the tree having a skill that can clear debuffs, rendering any DOT effects useless. If I were you though, if you want to use Kiris specifically for Golem Hunts, you might want to reconsider building a team that can clear stage 11, and work your way up the stages, rather than building Kiris and getting stuck at stage 11. She does have some uses outside of Golem Hunts. One of them is Abyss, and you can use her against most bosses, as long as they don't have immunity or are not fire type, since on-hit effect chance are reduced against a disadvantaged element. Like most DOT units, with the exception of Baiken, are slower since they trigger on opponent's turn rather than your own. Kiris is good against tanky bosses since poison ignores defense as well as damage reduction, and is perfect against high HP bosses since poison deals percentage damage. She does hit the ground when versing against enemies with cleanse and immunity, as they both can negate her source of damage. She's almost non-existent in PvP due to the long setup of accumulating poison on a single target, as well as many other reasons. I mean, if you manage to defeat an enemy, guess what? You have 3 more to go, and chances are, at this point you've probably already lost 2 units. Kiris is just too slow in a fast-paced arena where the first team to drop the nuke first wins. And that's the end of my guide for Kiris. She is fun to use watching all those poisons stack up, and seeing their HP drop from 60% to 0 is pretty damn satisfying. However, she's someone that you won't use a lot, definitely not in PvP. But she does have some uses. I mean, she could be the answer you're looking for whenever you get stuck in Abyss. Who knows? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another Epic 7 video. Rover out.